This happened just a few days ago. I had just moved into an old farmhouse in a small town. I left behind my hectic city life to find inspiration for my writing. I thought solitude would help. But from the start, I felt uneasy in the house. The peeling paint and dusty attic made it feel like the past was watching me. I couldn't shake the feeling. I had barely settled in when I discovered a dusty old board game in a box up in the attic. I hesitated as a chill ran through the air. Just like me, the game looked worn out. It felt like it had stories too. I convinced myself to play it anyway. I was determined not to let my fears take over. At midnight, I set it up on the old wooden table. The room felt colder, but I brushed it off. Maybe it was just a draft. As I rolled the dice, I felt something shift around me. Strange symbols began to appear on the walls. They pulsed with a life of their own. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it. My heart raced, but I kept going. It didn't seem real. I pushed that thought away. I needed this. I wanted inspiration. Every night after that felt stranger. I kept hearing whispers, like echoes of my own thoughts. I looked around, feeling something lurking just out of sight. I tried to ignore it. Maybe I was getting too wrapped up in the game. But then there was the shadow. It flitted near the edge of the candlelight, always moving away when I turned to look. My skin prickled with unease. I wanted to scream or run outside, but something held me back. What the game was doing to me, I didn't know. I felt like I was slipping from reality. The symbols grew bolder, revealing secrets I couldn't grasp. I started to wonder if anyone else had experienced this, or if I was truly alone. I needed to know what those shadows wanted. I felt like I was trapped. My heart raced at the thought, pounding like a caged animal. One night while I played, I could have sworn I saw a face just for a moment. It stared at me from the corner of the room. I blinked, and it was gone. I called out, my voice shaky, but no reply came. The air felt heavy and thick. I stood up, trembling. As I turned to leave, a cold breeze swept through the room, and I heard a whisper. "Stay." I froze. I didn't want to, but something pulled me back to the table, back to the game. I wanted to run, but part of me was afraid of what lurked in the shadows. I stood there, feeling paralyzed. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. What happened next? I still don't know. I stood in that dimly lit room, uncertainty wrapping around me like a fog. My heart was racing, but curiosity gnawed at me. I couldn't leave the game unfinished. I took a deep breath and sat back down. The candle flickered, casting long shadows that danced on the walls. I focused on the board, desperate to shake off the feeling of being watched. Each time I rolled the dice, the walls responded. The symbols shimmered and shifted, creating patterns that felt almost alive. I had to know what would happen next. I leaned in closer, my eyes darting from the game to the shadows. Then I heard it again, a soft whisper, almost like calling my name. It came from a different part of the house this time. I hesitated, torn between the urge to explore and the instinct to remain safely by the table. The voice called out again, clearer now. "Help me." I felt a chill wash over me. My mind raced. Help whom? The shadows, or was it the game itself? I was confused and scared. Slowly I stood, each creak of the floorboard sounding louder than the last. I forced myself to step toward the door, my pulse quickening. As I opened it, another cold blast swept through, sending shivers down my spine. I peered down the dark hallway. Light flickered from my living room. I was drawn toward it, my feet moving before I could rethink this decision. I reached the end of the hall and saw something on the floor. A thin, dusty book lay open near the fireplace, pages turning slowly as if they had a life of their own. Before I picked it up, I heard the whispers again, but this time they felt more urgent, more frantic. What was happening? I scanned the room, half expecting to see something lurking in the corners. I felt lightheaded, like I might pass out. I grabbed the book. Its cover was delicate, cracked, and worn. The title was barely readable. The Game of Shadows. My breath caught in my throat. Was this the key to the game? I flipped through the pages, and my heart sank. Diagrams of symbols, descriptions of shadows, and warnings scribbled in the margins. I read snippets of text about the power of the game, how it connected with spirits longing for attention. Then I froze. One line in particular stood out. Heed the whispers, or you shall become one with the shadows. Fear crashed over me like a wave. I dropped the book, the sound echoing through the empty room. I wanted to run, to escape whatever was happening, but the game was calling me back. I could feel that pull again, a magnetic connection to the table, and I realized I had only scratched the surface of something much deeper. Before I could fully process it, the candle flickered violently. Darkness enveloped me, the shadows deepening. I fought against the feelings of panic rising in my chest. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness faded. I was back at the table, the game board glowing softly in the stillness. Everything felt bizarrely calm, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed. I glanced around, half expecting the shadows to spring to life, but they stood still and silent. Then I noticed it. A piece on the board had moved. I didn't touch it. My breath quickened as I leaned in. The piece now hovered over a symbol I hadn't seen before, one that looked like an eye entwined with twisting vines. The whispers filled the room again, louder this time, more insistent. "Join us," they seemed to chant in unison. I felt my heart race. I pushed my chair back, ready to flee, but my body wouldn't move. It was as if the game held me captive. "Help me," the voice echoed again, but this time it felt intertwined with the game itself. I gritted my teeth, willing myself to take control. I had to play. There was no other choice. I rolled the dice with shaking hands, the sound reverberating around me. As the dice clattered on the board, the lights flickered again. The shadows stretched toward me, almost beckoning. I focused on the game, my eyes darting from the symbols to the shifting shadows. Each time I rolled, it felt like I was peeling back a layer of reality, revealing something darker below. Suddenly the whispers stopped, and a single voice cut through the silence. "You must face the truth." I froze. The voice was familiar, and a cold dread washed over me as I recognized it. It was my sister's. Adrenaline surged. I hadn't thought of her in years. Why did this game feel connected to her? "What truth?" I shouted into the silence. The board glowed brighter, filling the room with an eerie light, then dimmed again, revealing more symbols. A series of dates, drawings of people I didn't recognize. What did it all mean? I leaned over the board. My pulse raced. I had to understand. Maybe the game was trying to show me something important. That's when I saw it. One of the symbols started to pulse, the eye radiating waves of energy. It almost looked like it was watching me, as if it sensed something. The candle flickered, revealing fleeting figures amidst the shadows. They danced around the edges, whispers echoing in the twilight. Panic flared. "What do you want?" I yelled. The board vibrated and my hand shot up, almost of its own accord, to touch the pulsating piece. The moment I made contact, the room swirled. A rush of colors, emotions, and memories flooded into me. Then it stopped. Silence. I was alone again, but the air felt heavier. I turned slowly, every instinct screaming to run, but there was something lingering, a new threat. I could feel it in the very fabric of the shadows pressing against me, ready to strike. Someone was in the room. In that moment, I knew everything had changed. I stood frozen, my heart thumping like a drum in my chest. The shadows loomed larger, curling around the walls as if they were sentient, alive. I could sense something, a presence, hiding just beyond the flickering lights. The room felt charged, as if it was holding its breath, waiting. "Is anyone there?" I managed, my voice wavering. No response, just the heavy silence hanging like a thick curtain. Then a soft sound broke through, a rustle, like fabric sliding against itself. I turned toward the sound, my breath caught in my throat. Nothing. Everything appeared unchanged. Yet I could not shake the feeling of being observed. The symbols on the board glowed more intensely, the eye at the center pulsing steadily, drawing my gaze back like a magnet. "Focus," I whispered to myself. I needed to reclaim control. I reached for the dice again, but before I could pick it up, a shadow flitted across the doorway. My adrenaline spiked, and a cold sweat trickled down my back. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding too small against the rising tension. Then it hit me. The game. It had something to do with my sister, and now it felt like the board was demanding answers. I leaned closer, desperate to decipher the new symbols. I traced my fingers over the dates etched into the wood. Some felt familiar, like distant memories resurface, while others were foreign, with not a single hint of recognition. "Help me." That same voice echoed in my mind, layered with urgency and pain. It compelled me, wrapping around me like a vine. That's when I noticed a new piece on the board, one I hadn't seen before. A figure drawn almost incorrectly, its features twisted in a strange visage. I felt a chill creep up my spine. Who was this? As if sensing my dread, the shadows deepened, swirling and pooling in the corners of the room. I couldn't shake the instinct that I was not alone. When I looked again, I saw the figure shifting, filling out. A face emerged from the darkness, familiar yet warped. It looked like my sister, but sharper, more pronounced. Her eyes glinted with desperation. "You have to let me go," she whispered, though her lips hardly moved. Panic washed over me. I stepped back, nearly tumbling into my chair. "What do you mean?" I cried out. The game shifted again, the board vibrating beneath my palms, almost as if it linked my emotions to this strange connection. "Join me in the truth. You have to see." The voice faded, but her image remained, flickering like a half-remembered dream. The darkness coalesced once more, a gust sweeping through, playing with my hair. "What truth? What do you want from me?" Silence descended, thick and suffocating, interrupted only by my ragged breaths. I needed to know, but I was terrified. The fear mixed with a strange need, a pull towards the board, towards the truth it offered. Suddenly everything went dark. The lights flickered and died, plunging me into a sudden void. I was left in a stifling blackness, and the weight of the shadows pressed in on me, thick and unyielding. "Don't leave me," my sister's voice whispered again, barely audible. As the darkness roared into my ears, a thought pierced through the fear. I had to play again. I fumbled around in the dark, heart racing as I tried to gather my thoughts, still shaking from the sudden darkness. I have to play? It felt insane, but the stirring of responsibility lingered in my gut. My mind raced back to my sister's last words. She needed help. Holding my breath, I reached out, fingers brushing against the cool surface of the board. The air around me shifted, embracing me and crushing me all at once. I closed my eyes, willing myself to calm down. The presence surrounding me didn't feel threatening yet. It felt desperate. With a shaky hand, I felt for the dice. Placing them in my palm, I took a deep breath. "Okay, let's see what this leads to," I murmured. But before I could throw them, a faint shimmer of light flickered across the board, illuminating strange markings I hadn't noticed before. They seemed to pulse with an internal rhythm, almost beckoning to me. Without thinking, I rolled the dice. They clattering against the board echoed through the room, filling the void with sound. The result was a double. My heart fluttered. Something about doubles felt significant. The markers on the board shifted, almost slithering across the surface before rearranging themselves into a formation I recognized. It resembled a map of our neighborhood, a place I knew all too well. This can't be right, I breathed. I leaned closer, eyes scanning the board for something familiar. There, marked with an ominous red X, was the abandoned house on the end of my street, the one with peeling paint and broken windows. I had often heard rumors about it, tales woven through whispers in the neighborhood, but I had never dared to approach. What bound it to this game? Before I could contemplate further, the shadows crept closer, curling around my feet like mist. "What do you want me to see?" I shouted, my voice breaking the stillness again, but a feeling of calm washed over me as a faint voice, warm yet strained, floated through. "Find the beginning, it awaits." My breath hitched. It felt like my sister was guiding me still. The shadows seemed to twist in excitement, urging me to follow their lead. I executed another roll, each outcome breaking the intense silence. The board glowed brighter with each roll, its pattern spinning a story only it knew. With the dice results mingling in my head, I decided I would go to that house. I had to understand what it all meant, the links between the board, the symbols, the house, and most importantly, my sister. As I grabbed my phone ready to light my way, the room jolted. The shadows surged forward, sweeping over me with a fierce intensity. Panic surged through me again. "What's happening?" I yelled, but there was no answer. Then, in that suffocating darkness, something caught my eye, a glint, a reflection of light that didn't belong. I hesitated. "Someone's in the house." It was a whisper, but it resonated, sending chills coursing through my spine. I had to seize control before it all engulfed me. "Show me the truth," I dared to whisper into the void. I stepped forward, heart racing, prepared to confront whatever awaited in the dark. The air felt thick as I approached the old house, each step heavier than the last. The moonlight spilled across the broken sidewalk, casting shadows that danced like specters. The gate creaked ominously as I pushed it open, and I flinched, expecting a scream from someone hidden within. But there was silence. The house loomed before me, its windows dark and unwelcoming. I could hardly see the details of the facade, but the stories I'd heard echoed in my mind, the ghostly figures, the flickering lights, and the whispers late at night. Despite everything, I felt an inexplicable pull toward it, like an invisible string tugging at my heart. As I approached the door, I felt a chill dart up my spine. "Okay," I whispered to myself. "You can do this." The phone's faint light barely cut through the night as I reached for the knob, which was surprisingly cold to the touch. It turned easily in my hand, and the door creaked open as if inviting me in. Stepping over the threshold, I was met with a stale smell that lingered like old memories. Dust motes swirled in the narrow beam of my phone light, and I fought against the urge to turn back. "This is for you, sis," I murmured, more as an affirmation than reassurance. I moved deeper into the dark, my heart quickening again. The floorboards groaned beneath my feet, and I felt the weight of the shadows surrounding me. My skin crawled, sensing that I was not alone. "Find the beginning," the voice in my head urged, sending me further into the house. As I made my way through a dim hallway, I spotted what looked like an old staircase leading down to the basement. The idea of descending into the dark depths sent another chill through me. But I remembered the board, how it had led me here for a reason. Following that instinct, I descended the stairs, each step descending into the unknown. The basement was even colder, and my breath fogged in the air. The walls were lined with old shelves covered in dust and cobwebs, and I could make out shapes of forgotten things. My phone light flickered against something shiny on the floor. I bent down, revealing what looked like a shattered picture frame. I picked up the pieces carefully, trying to see if anything remained. Glass cut into my fingers. I winced. But there, amongst the shards, I caught a glimpse of a face. My sister's face. My stomach tightened at the thought. Why was this here? Suddenly, I heard a soft shuffle behind me. Spinning around, I braced myself against the wall, heart racing as I scanned the darkness. Was it just my imagination? "Who's there?" I called, voice trembling. No answer. Just the sound of my own breathing, quick and shallow. That's when I saw it. A faint glow emanating from the far corner of the basement, illuminating a wall that bore strange markings resembling those from the board. I stepped back, pulse pounding. I wasn't just here to learn about the house. I was about to uncover something much deeper. Before I could contemplate my next move, the glow intensified, awakening an energy that vibrated in the air. This was the beginning, but it felt like something terrifying was about to unfold. The glow pulsed again, and I realized I had to press on. There was no turning back now. Whatever waited in that light needed to be faced. "Let's see what you have," I breathed, moving forward, drawn toward the mystery unfolding before me. As I stepped closer to the glow, the air felt charged, electric. My phone's light barely reached into the corners of the basement, but the brightening energy ahead was undeniable. The markings on the wall pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat. Each beat seemed to beckon me closer, promising answers and threatening danger all at once. I hesitated, caught between curiosity and dread. "Is anyone there?" I called out again, but my voice trembled and hung in the air unanswered. I hadn't seen anything but shadows, yet the feeling of being watched intensified. It felt like a million eyes were upon me, judging my every move. I took a deep breath, steeling myself against that intangible pressure. Closer now, I noticed the markings were intricate, overlapping in a pattern that was both beautiful and terrifying. They resembled a language I didn't recognize, but there was something disturbingly familiar about them. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had seen them before. Did my sister know something about this? I reached out to trace one with my fingertip, and a jolt shot through me at the contact. Suddenly the glow flared, filling the basement with light. I squinted against the brightness, stumbling back. The vibrations turned into whispers, low and urgent, swirling around me as if the very walls were trying to communicate. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. A warning. My heart raced as I clutched the shattered frame, my only connection to my sister. Then, without warning, the glow vanished, plunging the basement back into darkness. My pulse drummed in my ears. I swung the phone's light around, trying to regain a sense of my surroundings. Was something or someone now closer? Panic began to seep in. I took a few cautious steps back, trying to find the stairs, but the shadows loomed around me, closing in. Just as I turned to make my escape, a loud crash echoed from the far end of the basement. My heart leapt into my throat. The sound was like a door slamming, but there were no doors down here. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaky. I felt like a fool talking to empty space, but I hoped the darkness was just that. Empty. I didn't want to be here anymore. Somehow, even the cool basement air felt stifling. Another crash, louder this time. It sounded closer. My instincts screamed at me to run. Maybe I had learned enough. I had come to understand some truths, but hadn't accounted for this level of terror. Turning on my heel, I sprinted toward the stairs, fumbling in the dark. As I reached the first step, a faint laugh echoed behind me. A high, eerie sound that raised every hair on my body. Someone was in the house. I bolted up the stairs, seeking the safety of the light outside. It felt like the darkness itself was trying to pull me back, but I couldn't look back. Just as I reached for the door, the laughter rang out again, chilling my blood and freezing my hand. The door slammed shut, blocking my exit. I pounded against it, both desperate and terrified. Whatever I had uncovered was not ready to let me go. "Let me out!" I screamed, my voice lost in the oppressive silence. Then everything stopped. No sound, no movement. An uneasy weight filled the air as I waited, breathless. I had to know. What had I awakened? I pressed my ear against the door, straining to hear anything, but the silence wrapped around me like a thick blanket. I could feel the weight of it pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. My mind raced with thoughts of what I had just encountered. Those markings, the laughter. What had I awakened down there? I glanced around, desperate for an escape. The hallway was dimly lit, illuminating just enough to reveal faded wallpaper and dust-covered frames. Racing thoughts filled my head like a storm. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in the basement was now here with me, lurking just beyond my vision. Every creak of the old wooden floor felt amplified in the stillness. My stomach churned, a mix of fear and adrenaline. Taking a deep breath, I backed away from the door. Maybe I could find another way out. I turned toward the stairs leading to the upper floor. The wood groaned under my weight, but I pressed on, focusing on the faint light bleeding in from a window at the end of the corridor. As I reached the top of the stairs, I paused. A chill skittered down my spine. I heard that laugh again, softer but more sinister. It was teasing me now, as if daring me to find it. I felt a surge of anger. I wanted answers, and I wanted to confront whatever was taunting me. I pushed forward, inching my way toward the attic door. A part of me wanted to run, just put as much distance between me and this place as possible. Yet my legs carried me toward the mysteries that awaited me, driven by an inexplicable force that urged me deeper. The attic door was slightly ajar, creaking with the slightest nudge. As I pulled it open, I was greeted by the musty smell of dust and forgotten memories. I stepped into the dim space, my phone's flashlight barely illuminating the corners. Cobwebs danced in the beams of light, and old furniture lay draped in sheets like ghosts of the past. That's when I saw it. A small trunk at the far side of the room, the wood weathered and splintered. The moment I laid eyes on it, I felt a pull, like it was calling me. My heartbeat quickened, and I hesitated. Should I open it? What if it held more secrets I wasn't ready to face? Just as I took a step toward it, the laughter erupted again, louder and closer. It echoed around the attic, reverberating off the walls. The sound filled the room and wrapped around me, tightening like a snake. I turned, heart racing, but there was no one else there. "Please, just leave me alone," I shouted into the emptiness, my voice trembling. The laughter stopped abruptly, replaced by a heavy, oppressive silence. I was left standing in the dim light, wondering if I had really just spoken to thin air. The adrenaline coursed through me, turning my fear into rage. I couldn't let it control me. With renewed determination, I approached the trunk. My hands trembled as I reached for the latch. I glanced back at the door, half expecting to see a figure standing there, watching me. But the attic remained empty and still. I took a deep breath and lifted the latch. That simple action sent a shiver down my spine. Whatever was waiting inside, I would find out what this was all about. Then, as I slowly lifted the lid, a piercing scream rang out from below, followed by a frantic knocking on the basement door. As the lid of the trunk creaked open, my heart thumped violently in my chest. The scream from below echoed in my mind, merging with the rush of adrenaline. I hesitated, staring into the dark cavity of the trunk. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the dim light. Inside lay a collection of dusty, tattered papers and a small book bound in cracked leather. I pulled the book out, feeling a cold shiver run through me at its weight. A strange symbol was embossed on the cover, one that looked disturbingly familiar. It was similar to the markings I'd seen in the basement. Before I could open it, a loud crash reverberated from the attic door. I spun around, adrenaline surging through my veins. My hands instinctively clutched the book as fear clawed at my throat. The door rattled violently, and I could see the outline of something or someone pressing against it. "Let me in, please," a voice begged from the other side. It sounded like a child. The fear wasn't just mine anymore. The urgency in that voice tore through the silent air, making my skin crawl. I took a step back, trapped between the horror of the trunk and this frantic plea. "Who are you?" I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want?" The reply came quick. "They're coming. You need to get out." The words seemed to hang in the air, urgent and desperate. I fumbled with the book in my hand, glancing back at the trunk. Whatever secrets it held, they could wait. My instincts screamed at me to make a choice. I dashed toward the attic door, but as I reached for the knob, the banging intensified. The door trembled, and splinters of wood flew off as something heavy slammed against it. I stepped back in terror. "Get away from the door," I shouted. But the voice continued to plead, sounding more frantic than before. "Open it! Hurry!" I took a deep breath, torn between the unknown danger behind the door and the unsettling contents of the trunk. I needed to act. In a split-second decision, I turned back to the trunk, quickly rifling through the pages of the book. A chill coursed through me as I saw them, incantations, hand-drawn symbols, and sketches of horrifying figures. I felt a sudden weight in my gut. This wasn't just any book. It was a manual for a ritual, a way to summon something. I gasped as understanding hit me. I had disturbed something that was never meant to be touched. The banging from the door ceased abruptly, replaced by a whisper of static. I froze. "What have you done?" the voice from the basement murmured faintly. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered out, plunging the attic into total blackness. I could barely make out the silhouette of the trunk before it disappeared in the dark. The cool air felt heavy, pressing down on me like a physical weight. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence hung in the darkness, thick and suffocating. My heart raced, and I took a step back, bumping into the trunk. I could hear a faint rustle, something shifting nearby. "Come on, show yourself!" I shouted, brushing my hands against the walls, searching for a way back to the safety of the hallway. My instincts screamed at me to leave, to escape this nightmare, but where was I supposed to go? Then, from the darkness, a low growl emerged, sending chills racing down my spine. I could feel it, whatever it was, closing in on me. I stumbled backward, a cold sweat pooling at the base of my neck. The growl echoed through the attic, vibrating the very air around me. Panic gripped my chest, making each breath feel like a battle. I had to escape, but every instinct urged me to stand my ground. Whatever was lurking in the dark was drawing closer, its presence palpable. In desperation, I reached for my phone, hoping the flash would pierce through the veil of shadows. My fingers trembled as I switched it on, and a beam of light sliced through the darkness. For a brief moment, the attic transformed into a sanctuary, revealing old furniture draped in ghostly sheets and cobwebs that sparkled like stars under the light. But then I saw it, without warning, emerging from the shadows. A figure materialized, indistinct yet familiar, twisting in and out of the range of my phone's light. My sister's face flickered before me, her features distorted but undeniably hers. "You opened it," she said, her voice a haunting echo, barely audible over the thrumming of my heart. What do you want from me?" The fear in my chest simmered into anger. "You said to help you." "Help me! You have to finish what you started!" A sense of urgency radiated from her as she reached out with a hand that shimmered with a strange, ethereal light. I felt the pull again, stronger than ever. It drew me toward her, toward the trunk, tugging me into the depths of my memories, the games we played, the laughter that filled the air. But that laughter felt far away now, replaced by the chilling laughter from the unseen force lurking outside the door. Suddenly, the basement door rattled ominously, causing me to flinch. The whispers from below surged back, rising to a deafening crescendo, as if they were rising in fury. My sister's form flickered again, dissolving and reforming in front of me. "Please, you must understand," she said, her voice thickening with emotion. "The trunk holds the key to everything. You cannot let them win." I squeezed my eyes shut for a moment, wrestling with the emotions stirring within me. The weight of the past pressed heavily upon me, the burden of family, the memories of loss, the feeling of being trapped. I opened my eyes, looking straight at her fading image. "How do I stop this?" "You have to break the connection," she urged. "You're the only one who can." The shadows around me began to swirl as if responding to my sister's words, dragging me deeper into the depths of this nightmare. I was losing daylight, my grip on reality slipping. "But I can't just leave you here." A deep rumble echoed through the attic, a warning. Suddenly, the floor quaked beneath my feet, and the ominous laughter resumed, clawing at the edges of my sanity. I glanced back at the trunk, then up to where my sister was flickering like an old film reel. "No!" I shouted, desperate. "I'm not leaving you!" "Finish the game, or we will all be lost." Her voice cut through the chaos. "You must decide." The choices loomed before me, magnitude crushing my chest. There were answers waiting in the trunk, and yet lurking shadows promised judgment and despair. The laughter grew louder, edgy, almost excited at the prospect of betrayal. It was time to confront what lay within. I hesitated for only a moment, torn between fear and loyalty, before I lunged for the trunk. Heart pounding, I ripped open the lid and frantically rummaged through its musty contents. Among the papers, I found a single note, a scrawled warning. "Heed the whispers, face the shadows, and you shall prevail." The ground trembled again. I grabbed the book, the one filled with incantations. I could feel the darkness pressing in, eager to take me. This was the moment of truth. "I will not be a pawn," I shouted, my voice steadying with resolve. "Let me go." My sister's voice urged again, blending with the cries of the shadows around me. With a deep breath, I opened the book to a random page. The symbols stared back at me, pulsing as if alive. I began to recite the words, each syllable heavy with intention, a binding spell forged through years of familial ties. The shadows reacted immediately, coiling and writhing, as if in pain. My sister's image flickered in and out of focus, the connection between us bridging the gap between shadow and light. This time, I didn't falter. I cast my voice toward the chaos. "You will not take any more from me." In that moment, the world spun. The attic walls began to shimmer, the harsh energy dissipating into electric tingles that crackled through the air. I could feel a release, the truth rushing around me, washing away layers of grief and fear. And then, darkness. A swirling void as I lost sense of time and space, echoes of laughter fading into silence. When I regained awareness, I was back in the attic, the trunk now closed and still, the room eerily quiet. I scanned the area, breathless, desperately searching for my sister, but she was gone. The air felt lighter, a significant weight lifted from my shoulders, yet a deeper emptiness gnawed at my insides. I stood in the dim light, the walls echoing with a haunting silence. Everything had changed, but at what cost? I stepped toward the trunk one last time, feeling the familiar shadows flow past me. My heart ached with yearning, for unanswered questions remained, but I had escaped the immediate threat. The connection to the shadows had severed, but they were not entirely gone. They remained an echo, a lingering presence I would never forget. I turned to leave the attic, feeling the breeze from an open window brush against my skin. I took one last glance back, a chill running through my bones. I still didn't know if what I had encountered was real or just a trick of the mind. a mix of grief, fear, and desperation. Yet something whispered as I stepped into the fading light, reminding me that the boundaries between the living and the lost were never as clear as we hoped. The house felt alive. The game would always linger. I moved into the world beyond the walls, knowing I had survived, but knowing the shadows would never truly let me go.